The streets of Sarajevo were alive with the hum of an ordinary day. Vendors called out to passers-by. The aroma of freshly baked bread wafted through the air, and the sound of carriages on cobblestones blended into the symphony of life. Yet, beneath the facade of normalcy, the world was on the brink of a seismic shift. What unfolded on June 28, 1914, would forever alter the course of history. A single moment, a single act, 2 gunshots fired by a young nationalist would ripple across continents, igniting a catastrophic chain reaction that no one could stop. This was the day when Gavrilo Princip assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary and his wife, Sophie, in Sarajevo. At first glance, the assassination might have seemed like a localized act of defiance in the Balkans, a region simmering with nationalist tensions and imperial rivalries. But it was far more than that. It was the spark that ignited the Great War, later known as World War I. To understand the magnitude of this event, we must step back and examine the web of alliances, ambitions, and resentments that had made Europe a powder keg waiting to explode. The early 20th century was a period of immense geopolitical tension. Empires like Austria-Hungary, Germany, Russia, and the Ottoman Empire were locked in a struggle for dominance. Nationalism surged across Europe, fueling movements for independence and unification. In the Balkans, this fervor was particularly intense. Serbia, a small but fiercely proud nation, sought to unite all South Slavs under its banner. This ambition put it on a collision course with Austria-Hungary, which controlled Bosnia and Herzegovina, home to many ethnic Serbs. The annexation of Bosnia by Austria-Hungary in 1908 had enraged Serbian nationalists. To them, Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, was a symbol of imperial oppression. The Black Hand, a secret Serbian nationalist group, plotted his assassination as a statement against foreign domination. Gavrilo Princip, a 19-year-old Bosnian Serb, was one of the conspirators. Driven by a mix of ideology and youthful fervor, he was determined to make his mark on history. On the morning of June 28th, Franz Ferdinand and Sophie arrived in Sarajevo. They were there to inspect imperial troops and strengthen ties with the local population. The couple's visit coincided with a significant date, the anniversary of the Battle of Kosovo in 1389, a symbol of Serbian resistance against foreign rule. For nationalists like Princip, the timing was almost poetic. The motorcade route through Sarajevo had been widely publicized, giving the assassins ample opportunity to plan their attack. Earlier that day, a failed bomb attempt had already shaken the Archduke's entourage, but the couple pressed on with their itinerary. This decision would prove fatal. As their car took a wrong turn and slowed near a corner, Princip saw his chance. He stepped forward, drew his pistol, and fired 2 shots. The first hit Sophie, and the second struck Franz Ferdinand. Within moments, both lay dying. Princip's act was swift, but its consequences were anything but. News of the assassination spread like wildfire, sending shockwaves through Europe. Austria-Hungary, outraged and seeking retribution, issued an ultimatum to Serbia. The demands were intentionally harsh, designed to provoke rejection. When Serbia's response failed to satisfy Vienna, war was declared on July 28th, exactly a month after the assassination. But this was no ordinary conflict. Alliances that had been meticulously crafted over decades began to activate. Germany stood with Austria-Hungary, while Russia backed Serbia. France and Britain, allied with Russia, were soon drawn in. The dominoes fell with alarming speed. By early August, Europe was engulfed in war, and the global repercussions began to unfold. World War I was unlike any war before it. Industrialized nations brought modern weapons to the battlefield, from machine guns to chemical gas. The carnage was unimaginable. Entire generations of young men were lost in the trenches, their lives consumed by a war driven by imperial ambitions and nationalist fervor. By the time the war ended in 1918, over 20 million people had perished, and the world had changed irreversibly. The assassination's impact extended far beyond the battlefield. The war dismantled empires that had stood for centuries. Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, Germany, and Russia all crumbled, giving rise to new nations and ideologies. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, sought to establish a lasting peace, but instead sowed the seeds of future conflict. The harsh penalties imposed on Germany created deep resentment, paving the way for Adolf Hitler's rise and the outbreak of World War II. In Russia, the chaos of the war fueled the Bolshevik Revolution, leading to the establishment of the Soviet Union. The ideological divide between communism and capitalism would dominate the 20th century, culminating in the Cold War. The League of Nations, an early attempt at global governance, emerged from the desire to prevent another such catastrophe. Though it ultimately failed, it laid the groundwork for the United Nations. Princip's story did not end with the assassination. Captured immediately, he was tried and sentenced to 20 years in prison, the maximum penalty for someone under 20 at the time. He spent the remainder of his short life in harsh conditions, succumbing to tuberculosis in 1918. To some, he remains a hero, a symbol of resistance against imperial oppression. To others, he is a terrorist whose actions unleashed unparalleled suffering. The story of Franz Ferdinand's assassination is more than a historical event. It is a cautionary tale. It reveals how localized tensions can escalate into global catastrophes, how alliances meant to ensure peace can lead to war, and how individuals can shape the course of history in ways they never intended. It underscores the fragility of peace and the interconnectedness of nations. Even today, the echoes of that fateful day resonate. The assassination is a stark reminder of how a single act can change the world. It invites us to reflect on the choices we make, the systems we build, and the consequences of our actions. In Sarajevo, a small plaque marks the site where the shots were fired, a quiet testament to the moment when history pivoted on a single act of violence. As we look back on that pivotal day, we are left with questions that defy easy answers. Could the war have been avoided? Could diplomacy have prevailed? What lessons can we draw from the devastation that followed? These questions remind us of the enduring relevance of history, not just as a record of the past, but as a guide for navigating the complexities of the present and the future. The assassination that reshaped world history stands as a powerful reminder of the unpredictable nature of human events. It teaches us that history is not just shaped by great powers and grand strategies, but also by individuals, moments, and decisions. And it reminds us that even the smallest act can echo across time, reshaping the destiny of nations and the course of human civilization.